Hello from the Richland Hills Public Library. I'm Miranda, the youth librarian, and today I'm bringing you one of our activities for Mythology Week. So this is a really exciting one. I'm going to show you all the supplies first, and then we'll get going, and I'll talk about some of the stuff involved. So really easy project. You just need some paper towels, some instant coffee, although this isn't really required, and I'll talk about why later, but I'm going to use it. Some glue, some saran wrap, and then something to put your saran wrap on. I'm using like a TV tray sort of situation here, but you could use like a cookie sheet or anything like that. Okay, so what we're actually going to be making today is sort of Egyptian papyrus is what we're going to be making. Obviously, we are not using papyrus plants. But I'm going to be showing you the process that Egyptians used and talking a little bit about how it would have been made back then and why they made papyrus. So first, we're going to get some of our paper towels. I can never figure out exactly how many, but I think 4 will be enough. And I say 4, even though I've only got 2, because this is actually double layered, and we're just going to peel them apart. Just like that. We'll see if this is enough for us. Alright, so now we're just going to tear off strips. They don't have to be any specific size, really. I try to do about 1 inch. But it's not a big deal if they're bigger. You probably don't want them too much smaller than 1 inch because they're going to be overlapping each other. And if you get them smaller than 1 inch, then they're not going to overlap as well. So y'all probably can hear this. I'm going to say something about it so you're not like, what is that? My dog, Miss Rosie, who you've met in previous videos, has decided to go chewing on her bone antler. So if you hear chewing and licking in the background,
should I show her?
It's Miss Rosie. Okay, that one's probably good. That's a little too thick, but that's okay. And then these may be a little too thin. Alright, and what I may do is make something slightly smaller than what I made for myself earlier, only because it'll save us a little bit of time. Well, probably should have already had these torn out to begin with. That's okay though. We're good. Since I said I was going to make something smaller, I think I'm going to go ahead and tear them all in half. Alright, so we have our torn up paper towels. So what this is right here is instant coffee. My experience has been when you mix the glue into the water, that it doesn't work well if the coffee is hot. So we're going to try to mix it in. The coffee's nice and cold now. But of course, instant coffee mixes with the water better if it's hot, so you can't just pour it into cold water. All right, so we have our instant coffee. It's all nice and mixed in. We're going to put in some glue. Last time I did this, I'm not sure I put in enough glue, so I'm going to try to do a little more this time. Now, in ancient Egypt, and even today, there are still companies that make papyrus the quote-unquote old-fashioned way. In ancient Egypt, they didn't need a separate glue because the sap from the papyrus plants was sticky enough that they could just use that. Oh, my glue is not mixing super well with my coffee. the first time I did this, I did do this experiment once for myself to make sure it was going to work the way that I wanted to. And the first time that I did it without the coffee, and then added the coffee after the fact as like an overlayer. And that might be a better way to do it, although it seems like we're getting there. I was having a little bit of trouble at first getting the glue to mix in with the coffee. So if that's something that you're worried about or an issue you think you might have, you can always like brush on a layer of coffee once you've done your glue mixture and allowed it to dry. That looks pretty good. Okay. So we don't need the brush now. Set it aside. So now we get to be messy. So you just take your strips of paper and you dip them all the way down in, pull them back out, and because this is now a lovely glue and coffee mixture, they should just stick right to each other. And even when they dry, they'll stay stuck to each other. And sometimes you might have stuff like this happen, which is okay, because it actually, I think, makes it look more authentic. So it's totally okay to have bits and pieces that fold over like that. Okay, and as you can see, it's actually harder to see because I'm using the coffee. It's easier to see if you just use the glue and water mixture, but we're layering on top of and trying to do about ½ an inch's worth. In fact, I think I'm going to turn that this way. Just one on top of the other. Oh, I got two. That's okay. We'll go ahead and put them both in there. And it is very messy, so as you can see, I'm already splattering around over here. And you can definitely put down more papers and stuff if you're worried about whatever surface it is that you're working on top of. Okay. So the first video that I actually watched of this being done, so there's lots of different ways when you look online that you'll find papyrus being made. Some people will recommend doing kind of like a crosshatch thing, but that's not how the ancient Egyptians did it. Because of the sticky sap, they didn't have to crosshatch to make it stronger. What they would do is they would put down one layer, row after row after row after row like this, and then once they had that first layer, they would go back and do this way. And I think we're about to that point. In fact, I may have gone a little over. Yeah, okay. So now that we've got all of our strips going vertical, horizontal, then we're gonna put these strips on top going vertical. And doing so, and again with the stickiness that we have in our coffee glue mixture here, and making sure that we layer on top of each other properly, that's what creates the cohesion to keep the strips together once they're dry. I should also note you can definitely use other kinds of paper. I chose paper towels for a couple of different reasons. They are designed to be absorbent, and the good paper towels are designed to be absorbent without tearing. And so that makes it kind of ideal for making this fake papyrus paper because you get it so damp. And normal paper, once it's damp, it's just going to tear apart into bits and pieces. But the paper towels are definitely sturdier. Okay, we're almost done. Actually, you know what? I messed that one up. Let's not do that one. And you don't have to drip dry them the way I'm doing after each one has been dunked. But if you don't, it can take even longer to dry afterwards. This took, my other one that I made, which I'll show y'all in a minute, took almost 24 hours to dry completely. And if you don't want to have to wait for that, then the more that you let out here, the faster it will dry later. Okay, so I think that's probably good. All right, so you take that, you just let it dry. What I also did is I put it almost directly underneath a fan, a ceiling fan, and I think that helped it to dry a lot faster than it would have otherwise. You could also probably try leaving it out in the open air if you have a backyard area. Leaving it outside to dry in the hot sun, that'll definitely have it drying faster. The Egyptians would actually use like bits of leather, and they lay a piece of wet papyrus down, and they put a piece of leather over it, and then they lay another piece of leather. They lay another piece of papyrus down, and then they put another leather, and then they would like book press them down to like press all the water out of them. And that's how they did things, but of course that's a lot more difficult. So we're just gonna leave ours to drip dry. So now let me show you the finished one. Okay, keeping in mind that the process that I did for the finished one is slightly different. But here's my finished one. And like I said, I brushed the coffee on after, so if you look on the back, it's definitely lighter, and you can definitely see the striations of the paper towels and how they went across. And I just did 2 layers. Actually, I take that back. I may have gone back and done a 3rd layer for a little bit of extra sturdiness when I decided that 2 layers wasn't enough. But now you have papyrus that you can write on. You can do another coffee mixture, only of course without the glue, so a nice dark coffee. Or you can use brightly colored paints like the Egyptians did, and some tempera paint or some acrylic, and then you can do Egyptian hieroglyphics if you want to, Egyptian symbols. Their eye is really famous. You can do all kinds of different things once you have your lovely bit of papyrus paper. So there we have it. Of course, the Egyptians used them to write all of the legends and mythology that we have about them today, which is why I'm showing you how to do this today. So I think that's it. We are good to go. Thank you so much for tuning in with me.